Hello, everybody, and a very big welcome to All Over Bar the Cricket, and I am excited. I always love when we get a guest on this show, but this man is special. Going to get to him in just a second, but make sure you're listening on the podcast, and if you're watching on YouTube, you subscribe to the channel. Join us on Instagram, all of the above. Greg Blewett is here as he always is. Matthew Hayden is here as he always is. But this man, I can't believe, given how long I've bloody known him, that I've finally done a deep dive. 119 tests, 366 catches, 29 stumpings, 4 centuries. 6 Ashes series, won them all 6. And in one of those, a record number of dismissals. I speak of the great Ian Healy, otherwise known as Hilzo, and he joins us live from Vegas. Hello to you, Hilzo.
G'day, bro. Lovely to be with you. That is a very deep dive for you. How many times have I told you you take me for granted?
I know.
Finally, you get it done.
No, that is extraordinary. 6 Ashes series, and you won them all. Not many people could say that.
Well, one of the great advantages about the Ashes is that you only play England.
Well, it was a dominant period. I mean, you started in 89. And from that moment on, Australia just didn't lose to anybody, let alone England.
Well, we did. It was the West Indies still had our measure, and until their team had to change for us to beat them. That was a bit of a blight on that one. We would have liked to beat them in 93 when their team was still a little stronger than it was in 1995. But when you're talking about the first one, the first Ashes victory of our squad really in 1989 was the biggest achievement, I reckon, because we didn't think we could win. We didn't have great designs on winning. We were this young side, and I had no idea, about anyone, and they didn't know me, and I'd only just started playing. So our policies were just to train hard, play hard, and we partied, and I don't know whether you call it a party, is it? It's an unwind. We were good unwinders, whether that be a commiseration or a celebration, and move on to the next one. So that, and it's probably no coincidence. You go all right when you have that attitude. Just go every day as hard as you can, and as hard as your captain's going, Alan Border, and that England side, Gooch, Botham, Gower, Gatting, Broad, who'd been great in 86-7 in Australia, young Robin Smith, was a very, very well-performed England side. And so I don't remember giving ourselves any chance, but we won.
Hilzo, great to have you, mate. And I just want to ask you off the bat, out of those 6, which one were you worried most about? And when did England surprise you? Were they ever a chance of winning any of those series?
No, that they weren't a chance to win any of those series, I don't think, Bluey. When was I concerned the most? And I've just said I wasn't even concerned about winning and losing in 1989, so that one didn't concern me. But when we went down, they played well against us in Edgbaston, didn't they?
Yeah, 97 they won that first test.
Yeah, Edgbaston and the Oval at the end, they could beat us once or twice too. But when we were 1-0 down, it felt a bit different. But there's still plenty of tests to go, 4 tests to go. And McGrath then did his stuff in a washed out second test at Lord's. And I felt more confident then. So I think, what was that, 1997, Blue?
Yeah, 97. Yep.
So for those listeners, my 3 tours that we'll talk about is 89, 93, 97. They were the 3 I went. A lot of people say to us, don't they, like, how do you both remember that? But it's pretty easy with Ashes tours because they're every 4 years away and in between years back home here in Australia. So 1997 was my greatest concern, but McGrath allayed those concerns quite quickly. From 93 to 97, I think that's the most complete cricket of my career, not me, our team. And what coincidence? No, because Warne was at his peak. McGrath had come in, and we had the 2 war boys going well, and Tubby was going well. So Haydos was dying to get in there. This team was going really well.
Hilzo, it's great to have you on the program, mate. I want to deep dive, though, into what I know our viewers are going to want to, and listeners are going to want to hear, and that is this concept of you guys being just free in 89. Now, mate, you're allowed to win a game before you start getting on the piss. So, so in that tour, that was the infamous tour of the days when Qantas would be, I think we're our partner, right? Well, it might have been Cathay, but one of those two. And those days, they were full smoking flights. And of course, it didn't take very long to get that big nose of yours into the trough. So I want just take me through that plane trip over to England.
Well, geez, we had a lot of things fall our way in that plane trip. It was I think it was the first time an Australian cricket team travelled business class. Right. And then our squad was split in the bubble. There was like about not many, but 4 players, and the coach and manager were upstairs. Now, but I've heard Carl Ruckman tell this story, and he said they were downstairs and we're all upstairs. I remember us being downstairs, right? And then we flew from Melbourne to Sydney. We'd been in Melbourne for a training camp and all the physical assessments and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of us had a bit of work to do. But we flew to Sydney and we had to land. There was trouble with the aircraft. So we then had 5 hours in the captain's club at the time. And a few of the boys thought, right, well, here's 5 extra hours on top of the 24 we're going to stay in the plane. So we need to have a beer so that they sleep well. That's how it started. That was the motivation about how it all started. And then before the attendant in the captain's club came and picked up the first round of cans from there was a few of them. At that stage, I was younger and I was none or gutful. I couldn't just have a few beers. It's either right in or not at all. So
you certainly changed that ledger.
yeah, I'm much better balanced now. And then so before they collected the first lot, they were Swan Darks. They were black Swan cans, and someone had the idea of counting. Yeah, we should count how many we had. So that's how the count came about. I don't really know who's kept counting and how that happened, but
you're an educator, so it was probably you.
No, it wasn't, because I was getting good sleep anyway, and then I'd hear voices up in the galley, and I'd sort of look around, and the boys are up there, so I'd go up there and have a couple of cans. Or I don't like aircraft beer. That's another thing. It's so warm, like I've told a number of hostesses over the time, can you put that where the cutlery is? How cold's your cutlery on the plane? So I'd have a beer, maybe 2. I don't remember really, and then I'd sit back down all the time, and we just remember Booney sitting down on descent into London. It's a very early Monday morning, and someone and he cracks this tinny and he takes a pathetic sip out of it. It wasn't a very good sip, so it shouldn't have been counted. And everyone's going, no, this is it. And then he's fallen asleep late enough for his tray table to stay down. And then we land, and he wakes up and grabs the can, like he doesn't spill a drop. And then he goes, oh, geez, I needed that. It was 9 minutes late. So it was ridiculous sort of stuff, but no one knew still. And then we had a press conference first thing, 2 hours later after that, maybe 3, press conference, a big room of media to welcome the Aussie Ashes combatants. And he got through all that without getting noticed.
What was the number, mate? Let's just confirm the number, please, because those in the bar
the number
will be wanting
52.
To know.
It's 52. So is the number they bandy around
That's
about
big.
this.
That's really big.
Dougie Walters doesn't have a bar of it because he didn't get those 12 cans on the ground before he took off. So it's a controversial number.
Now, Bluey and Doss, I don't know if you're aware of this, and he also is very generous. When you go to his house, he brings out beautiful red wine. He hasn't brought out enough to me out of respect for the fact that I started his career. And I tell you why. I'm batting with Tom Moody at the WACA on the most cracked up, horrendous pitch of all time. And at that stage, Queensland had a very, very accomplished gloveman called Peter Anderson.
Yes.
And Ian Botham said to him, come up and keep over the stumps. And I remember thinking at the time, that's a bad idea. This pitch is up and down, hard enough keeping up to the stumps without that to contend with as well. But anyway, I'm a minnow and I'm just standing there waiting for this all to unfold. I don't know, Heels, whether it was Beefy's second or third ball. All I heard was this horrible noise. And Peter Anderson smashed at least one of his fingers, keeping up to the stumps. That was the end of him. I think Stewie Law was the 12th man. He had to come on. They had to give the gloves to someone else. And Heels was in after that and was playing for Australia, a minute later?
Yeah, six games later. And of course, lots of people don't know Beefy. Ian Botham played for Queensland, so he was bowling for Queensland when Ando slithered his thumb.
Oh yeah,
he broke it both sides of the thumb right through the joint, and so that was going to be a fairly lengthy one. So that gave me those games that year, and then he got injured again the next year, and then. It gave me a second chance at a time where, again, so many things had to go my way. That we had to be unhappy with the Australian wicketkeeper to want to change the Australian wicketkeeper. I think the Australian cricket captain had to be in my state. If Alan Border wasn't in the Queensland squad and team and had known me at all, I wouldn't have got picked. If he was a New South Welshman, I wouldn't have been supported so strongly by the Australian captain to go with Greg Chappell's recommendation to convince Laurie Thorle and Bobby Simpson that this bloke might be okay. And then I had to be in decent form to sort of play against the greats of the game like yourself.
Oh yeah, of course.
And when that wicket was so cracked, that was the year Swampy stood his bat up in the crack, wasn't it?
It was.
And did you think to put a visor on, a grill on, or did you still have that stupid cocky helmet, that jockey helmet that sat back?
Yeah, we've
like
spoken about that.
No,
with little earpieces.
The problem would have been, because they were the previous C&D helmets, if I was between sizes, and if I'd put a grill on, I would have been looking straight through the bars. So
Could have been looking up to the sky.
And Bluey, don't worry. The next game I played against Queensland was a Shield final 2 games later. The man on screen was in his first or second game, and he still let me know about it. Just brand new into Shield cricket. What's with your stupid fucking helmet? It hasn't taken him long to get comfortable.
No, I learned a lot from Tim May playing South Australia. I was walking out the bat in one of my early innings against them. He said, "Oh, excuse me, mate, what's that thing on your nose?" "Oh, shit, it is your nose."
Now, Hilzo, I want to move you forward to 93. There's so many stories we want to get out of here. I want to move you forward to 93. Tell us about the ball of the century at Old Trafford, the build-up to it, and you had the best view of it in the house. It's the most discussed ball I think that's almost ever been bowled in Test cricket. Yep. Shane Warne to Mike Gatting. Talk us through it.
Well, the two things that make it the most talked about, I think, is the bowler turned into Shane Warne, and the batsman was the best player of spin in the England system. And then first ball, having been smashed around by Graham Hick in the lead-up county game, the expectations weren't that high. We just hoped that Warne could return to the form we'd seen in New Zealand just prior to the Ashes tour. He bowled some unbelievable deliveries then around the legs of Kenny Rutherford. The South Africans in a quadrangular one-day series were missing the ball by 6 inches, and that's when we decided, Warne, I think you might have to bowl around the wicket to really bring the bat into play, because from over the wicket, the South Africans are missing you by a long way. And so that's where that was hatched. So, but his first ball, we all knew what he had. And the reports were that Border just had him bowl leg spin only in the game against Worcester, where Hickey got us for 180. Didn't show anything else, didn't show too much. I'm not sure about that. I didn't know about that. So, but that ball just came out so beautifully, didn't it? You can, if you watch the ball, just watch his hand, how it just licks out. And the more flick he gets on it, he swings it into a right-hander and Gat. And so my feeling at that stage as the wicketkeeper behind Gat was, geez, he's slow here. He's really slow. And he's spectating this ball. He's not playing it. If you were playing it, you'd lunge onto the front foot. It's going to pitch outside leg. You're going to smother it. But he didn't know who this bloke was and hadn't heard anything. So his front foot didn't go out far enough. And Warne swings it into him. And I know where it's supposed to go now. And hasn't covered it with his leg. And then his bat is still up in my eye line here. And I'm looking under it. I'm saying, this is going to be danger here for this bloke. and his bat came down late, and I missed it wherever he missed it on the outside. Then it just clipped the off bail to me, and then Gat looked around. Eventually, we were all huddled up, and I remember clearly locking eyes with Gat. But I reckon when I've looked back on the vision, I was in the huddle already, looking back at him.
Yeah,
it must have been then, and he was looking at me like, "What have you done? You've knocked that bail off with your gloves, mate." Because it did, and I was about to give him an absolute gobful. How do you reckon that would have looked for the next 100 years if there's me in that video? I'm so glad I pulled my tongue and bit my lip and didn't say anything, but it didn't make any sound on the bail. It was very silent when it clipped the stump / bail. I caught the ball off that, and there was rest. Like Gat was watching what that ball was doing rather than playing it, and he sort of learned a lesson, I'm sure.
Hills, though, I was lucky enough to field bat pad to Warnie, and I always felt in the game. I also fielded bat pad to Stuart McGill, and I always felt like I was going to get hurt.
Yes.
Talk us through when Warnie, you feel. What was that?
Tell us how you really feel.
No, well, it was true. I mean, McGilla had the tendency just to drag one down probably once every couple of overs or a full toss, whereas Warnie was quite unique. Like, he wouldn't bowl sometimes because of his shoulder in between test matches, and then you're fielding at short leg and you're thinking, shit, where's this first one going to go? But more often than not, it'd drift in, turn away. But when do you think, Hills, he was at his absolute peak?
Just to pick up on Haydos there, Bluey, you were very good at short leg, but and there's Haydos giving it to you about being in there, Haydos was one of the most powerful short legs men we could have, wasn't it? But he always found an ailment. Yeah. There was patella tendonitis. I can't do it today. And out he went. He never.
Well,
anyway,
Heels, though, the other bit
not before
Bluey,
taking some speckies, though, Heels.
I know. We
presented no surface area.
Oh, right.
And that works. When you got
a wisp
like
of a man.
real skinny chicken legs and a skinny frame, there's not much to hit in there, Ian.
No, that's why we wanted Haydos in there as well.
Yeah.
So we could get
some body mass.
Warnie, in the years, I would say in my time, 93 to 97, was the golden sweet spot for Warne too. Now, I left in 99. I think around there he might have had another really good golden spot. But between those two Ashes tours and 94, 95, 96, as well as the 97, I don't think Shane Warne would have bowled 50 bad balls a season. He got all his success and his performance without a whole lot of deceit. Like, he was easy to read. You knew what was coming out of his hand. You knew what it should have done, but you just couldn't get on top of him, could you? So I think his accuracy and his consistency were his great skills, and the ability to spin the ball. Not so much what he was delivering out of his hand. What came out of his hand was put right where you didn't want it. It was a wrong one, which he wasn't good at, but flipper, leg spinner, a big side spinning leggy, or an over spinning leg spinner or toppy. He can put it where you don't want it, and he, as we know, he's a nuffy about cricket. He knows exactly what you're thinking, and he'd love to sort of read the batsman's mind and love that part of the game. But his accuracy would have been his number one skill, I reckon, and very few bad balls for long periods.
Heels, we all love talking about the King, about his playing career, but one of the things that I love talking about the most is about Shane Warne, the absolute bogan. Just a battling. And I'll go right back to the first game that we saw him at the Gabba. And if you remember, Queensland, we won the toss and decided to bat on an absolute storm front of a wicket. It was a green seamer. Merv, Healy and the King went out and had an absolute bender. And then they've given the typical, like, Brisbane, it's pissing down the day before the game, and then you hear that, and it's blue sky. And Victoria decided to play all their quicks and no Warne. So this sort of great mystery man, no Shane Warne, and he's sitting on those green lounge chairs out the front of the old Gabba change rooms, and they're bowling, and he's going fist on fist, meat pie and Coke and cigarette in his hand, and he's just punching on in combination. And I'll never forget walking out with Tank, who's got the special filter going out over the dog track, so I've got this waft of smoke. And I said to Tank, who the fuck is this bloke? Isn't that Shane Warne? And he went, yeah, he's supposed to be real good. And he said, mate, he's good, all right. Look at him. So what was your first impressions? Well, what was all of our first impressions of the King?
Yeah, it's sort of disrespecting those chairs, wasn't it? Like they're the chairs Bradman gave some bad news to Benno on, and there's Warnie now sculling pies. I saw him very early. Bobby Simpson got me to captain the Australian 11 in Hobart against the touring team. Over maybe 3 times I did this, and it was to have a look at this Warnie. And so I saw him early. He was average in the field, so Simo was working him over in the high balls and really running him and turning him into a catcher and the great catcher he became. But on the field, he's unbelievable. He reminded me of my country upbringing when you're playing with the men as a youngster and you know who the legends are. You know that, and that they look fantastic in their whites. They might be farmers or whatever, but they are legends of the game. And he reminded me of that. He reminded me of a country legend who knew way too much for a young bloke, and he had the greatest ability with that accuracy and his ability to spin immediately, straight away. And his control was great. And it was a delight to keep to him in Hobart. And Bobby Simpson got a good look at him that enabled Australia to make Victoria pick him, really.
Now, Hilzo, moving forward, one of my favourite memories of you playing Test cricket, and I think it was 93, was that series in the West Indies when you blokes, I think it was 93, correct me if I'm wrong, where you drew a line in the sand and you said, right, we're not getting stood over by these blokes anymore. And that famous vision of you and Desi going at it out on the pitch, and Desi's giving it to you, and you're pointing back at him going, get fucked, or whatever you were saying. And I'm watching it from back in Adelaide at that stage going, that's it, Heels. Give it to him. Give it back to him. Don't stop. Keep going. I loved it. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, it was 91, and we're playing. We tried this a few times. You know, we're not going to take a backward step. Well, they got us backstepping pretty quick, the West Indies. The reason why I'm looking around here, I'll have a photo of it in that cupboard. I'll get that in a minute. We're playing in Barbados, and it was a beautiful. Barbados was the most truest surface in our time. You could trust the bounce of the pitch and the practice facilities. So that was a practice session week where the bowlers were allowed to bowl bounces. So the batters said, we're going to have to get used to it and come up with some tactic against short pitch bowling and fast. So bowlers, you can bowl a few in the net. So we did all that. And anyway, we lose. I think we lose the toss. They're batting on a really good pitch. And it's like, oh, no, here we go. You know, our attitude already changed. They're going to make 500 here. We were on the back foot already. We had them 3 for 28. I think it was. And Desi played half forward to Craig McDermott, slow ball. Like he'd come across the seam like that. He nicked it onto his back pad and threw to me and down the leg side sort of thing. Inside edge, but not a big one. And I caught it, threw it up and thinking, you beauty, we got them 4 for 28, having lost the toss. And them deciding to bat, and I catch the ball, and I look down, and there he is saying to the umpire, "It's hit my leg, you know." So I said, "Just let the umpire do his own job, right?" That I said to him, and he looked around at me. Who is he? You know, he basically thought, and he came walking to me and said, "You know, I can't even remember what he said there," and I said something back to him. And he said, "I'll see you after the game. You can lip read that." And I went, "You're a big man, aren't you?" And I'm thought, well, all my boys will be healed. The slips would have followed me in the throw. You know, I'm out. And I look around. Geez, they're still way over there. Gutless wonders. And here I was exposed having a one-on-one with Desi and in his hometown.
Yeah.
So for the whole next 4.5 days, I just copped it. I couldn't I couldn't warm up with the bat. I couldn't hit balls because I'd be too close to the crowd. And it was an ugly couple of days. And we got him out for 150. And then, so we in the dressing room, Beauty and Desi batted a long time for not many. He like 30, batted for over 2 sessions. And then, so we get in the dressing room, come on, fellas, this is it. We can really get a lead here. So we made 148. and then they made their 500. They made 526, and we didn't make many in the second inning. So I'll try to look for the photo.
I love that.
Ask your question. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
No.
Down it.
You're right.
You got
Show
it?
us.
This is, look at that. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's it.
Gold.
I loved it.
And that's, as he's saying, I'll see you after the game.
Yeah.
And he signed it.
Yeah.
Signed it when he came out from the game, the testimonial game we had. He was there. And so he came out and had a great time. So
Heels,
he wasn't happy for some time.
You should have just given him a baggage check. Bang. Just hit him right on the snork, and then he'd be down to the count. Doesn't matter how big he is.
Jeez, look at that bit. I'm turning around. Don't have a second chop, you idiots. What are you doing? Look at that. Just don't engage. Get away.
Like most of us, we didn't want to bar you.
Hilzo,
in a fight.
Hilzo, what about 95 then, mate? So you beat the West Indies in the West Indies. They hadn't been beaten in any series around the world for 15 years leading up to that 95 tour, and hadn't been beaten at home for 22 years. So talk us through what that meant to you and a few of the older guys on that tour who had just been, bashed over the years by the West Indies.
Yeah, and you played a good part in it, mate. I think what did it mean? It meant we'd come a long way. We had travelled a long way between 1986. The one-day team won that World Cup in the subcontinent, 86-7, which started the confidence of the cricketers in the 80s. The retirements of Lillee, Marsh and Chappell in 84. Then the debacle and total desecration of cricket with the South African defections, and then they were sort of back, and then the World Cup win, and then the Ashes win, and now it's 1995. We hoped, as I said before, that we'd win before that, but couldn't be done. The West Indies were a very proud champion. They fought us back, didn't they? If we tried to stick it to them and give it to their tail enders, for example, they'd be giving it just as hard again the next day. And they're really proud, tough men. And so it meant a lot, but we could also say we should have won that series, and let's go and do more somewhere else. And South Africa was going to be an upcoming challenge, I guess. England wasn't the cricketing challenge that they had been through the 80s. But that was going to re-emerge as well. So we just needed to be ready for the next step, I reckon, Blue.
Heelzo, this is a very proud podcast for me, because finally I get a chance to have a Queenslander on here. Now I'm fighting these Muppets regularly around, he's got this shorts on and this hat on. But as a fellow Queenslander, I just wanted to say that you were and still are one of the more passionate cricketers and Queenslanders that I know. You've had, bouts in State of Origin camps. You're pivotal with AB in the leadership campaigns in the early 90s when Sheffield Shield cricket had never been won up here in Queensland. And more than anything, like your current roles as well, you've continued beyond your playing days into administrations. But I wanted to dig a little bit more into that space, because our listeners know you as probably Ian Healy, the cricketer. But, two things that sort of stand out for mine are not only your incredible or impeccable record for Queensland, but some of the memories in the early days where you didn't get a chance to celebrate the Sheffield Shield wins against these two Muppets, actually. And then you're in the West Indies as well. So just talk us through, what you felt like your leadership role was back as a player, but also now as an administrator.
Yeah. No, thank you for those compliments too, Haydos. Early days, our Queensland side had to take some masks off. we had a bit of a divide, senior players and senior legends. And you might say Greg Chappell, Tomo, all the big high achieving players we had, and then the Queensland fringies. There wasn't an easy communication path there, but it was no one's fault. It's just, if you asked any of those blokes a question and you got talking about it, they'd sit down for hours with you. But everyone was a bit tentative around them. Should I? Shouldn't I? It was just not quite healthy. And so we started, in my time, a little bit of self-training, personal skills in amongst groups. And once you get a Greg Chappell or a Greg Richie, Carl Rackerman telling a personal story about something that's happened to them in their life, they can't go back on that, right? So, and they worked particularly well. And then we had this great group that you were one of talent coming through that have been sort of nurtured through probably by Toot Byron and a crew. Hayden, Law, Love, Ma, Simons, Bickle, Kaslovich. This is incredible talent that I think our system knew were coming. I didn't understand probably how good you were. I still remember the first time you walked in our dressing room in the state squad. I said, "You beauty, another quick." And when we found out you're an opening batsman, we said, "What a waste of space this bastard is." And luckily you turned into a good one, mate. I think that's the key. Senior, Alan Border going back to play the final with you, not the final, but the final season with the Queensland squad, the Bulls, was, a great sign of how far we'd come as well. So that gave us all a lot of confidence and a lot of pride.
What about, Hilzo, that 87-88 final at the WACA, when you blokes were trying to compete in a Shield final while the federal police had some of your players in the viewing room with blacked out windows asking them questions to get them out of jail?
It's unbelievable. Has this story been told in public? I don't know, but
probably not.
The famous flight over to Perth. And we were on descent into Perth, and having stopped in Victoria, I think there was a problem in Tullamarine as well. Someone had spoken badly to a waitress who had criticised them for spilling sausage roll, like flakes everywhere in the lounge, the bar in the lounge. Anyway, so I don't think the federal police were far from the gangway to get one of us off the plane in Melbourne. Yeah. And now we're on descent into Perth. And then, there's a person in front of Ian Botham. So it was Ian Botham, Greg Richie, Alan Border, and in a row. And Border was, normally Botham would back Border as the captain of Australia in not picking Richie. You're not scoring enough runs at state level, mate. And Botham would be saying that, and Border would be well supported. Well, this flight, Botham and Richie are ganging up on Border. And Botham saying, "Yeah, this bloke's the best batsman around the country. You got to pick him, mate." Border is by now scrunched up against the side of the aeroplane, trying to get away from them. And then there might have been some language. We sensed that behind Greg Richie was Robbie Kerr with the 12th man on, in a Walkman with two speakers, and everyone's laughing and all that, enjoying the 12th man. So this man in front of Ian Botham turns around and sort of said, "Could you keep the language down?" Something like that. I'm sitting one row back and on the other side of the plane. And Ian Botham grabs his hair. He's only got hair around the sides. So he went like that, "Mate, you just shut up and turn around to the front," sort of thing. And then 2 rows in front of me, there's a lady says over here. She goes, "Oh, stop that. Stop it." And he said, "And you," and I'm going, "Oh no, what's this going to be?" And it wasn't great. Yeah. But we then landed this, and we all sort of cooled everyone down. And then we'd apologise to the bloke, and we're all sort of very remorseful on all that. And it was all fine. The manager went to the office that night while we were waiting for our bags and got it all sorted, all good. And then the next day we trained twice morning and afternoon. We came back, showered, came back down to the bar at the Hyatt Hotel, which was called the Merlin then in Perth, and we look up at the TV, and here's the bloke who Beefy had just done that to. He's got a neck brace on the news, and then two policemen come in here. Two policemen came in the foyer, took Beefy away. So AB went with him and had to go down to the watch house or whatever.
Yep.
And then they needed a West Australian landholder.
They did.
You know, who'd they ring? Lillee. So Lillee comes in with a 6-pack and a bottle of rum. You know, this is great joke. And the coppers are getting them to sign everything. Dennis, and AB and Beefy. And it just got more and more serious. As you say, Fat Cat was in trouble with his wife, Julia, because, and we're 10 minutes to go, we got a bat that we've lost the toss and we're batting, or it was a batting day. And he's going, it was 10-10. And that, Julia, I told you, no, it didn't happen. He was still pleading with her before our openers were about to go out. And then one day I was coming to bat and I couldn't get up to the viewing room, go to push it. Oh, geez, I look in and there's Fat Cat getting interviewed by the federal police. It was horrible. We did well to lose by 45, I reckon.
Hey, Hilzo, the great addition to that story, which I tell all the time, is AB and Beefy are in the holding cell with a Darrow off the street who'd obviously done something bad, and he was in the corner and he was just sitting there. And so there's the two of the greatest cricketers of all time and this bloke that they'd had in a divvy van and just dumped him in the corner. Anyway, they're sitting there and DK comes in, as you say, with a 6-pack and the bottle of rum. So the three of them are sitting in there waiting to get Beefy and AB out, and the cop comes for the bloke in the corner and says, "Righto, mate, that's enough for you. Come with me, you're done." And the bloke goes, "Mate, that's Dennis Lillee, Alan Border, and Ian Botham. I'm not going anywhere." Sat in the corner,
and to really finish the story off well, it went from, that was March, and the court case was put off till October, right? So Beefy and his legal teams were not only working on the case and getting all the evidence, but coming back over in October, or the week before October, all charges were dropped. And he lives with that all the time, that he made a huge mistake. It wasn't a huge mistake, but he never got to have his day.
The root of this problem, though, is Fat Cat, like in essence, because what you guys probably don't know is that Fat Cat was a paranoid flyer. And I thought he was sort of joking at the start, but it's absolutely dead set. He had a flying phobia as a first-class cricketer. And what he would do, JB and Blue, is he'd ring up the air traffic control the morning of the flight, and if it was looking dodgy, there's no way he was on it. But if he did get on the flight, immediately he'd sit down, ding, the attendant light would go off, and he'd have probably 5 or 6 scotches in a little bottle. He'd open them all up, and in one go, just like that.
Oh, no.
And then he'd turn into a different person.
Yeah.
Like he's Greg Richie one minute, captain of Queensland, and then he's this absolute idiot the next.
What could go wrong, eh?
What could go wrong? Exactly.
I remember I was walking from slip to slip with him, and as this inexperienced wicketkeeper, and he goes, "Oh no," and I was, "What's wrong, mate? We're just changing ends, you know." And he says, "Oh, look at those clouds. We got to fly tomorrow."
Oh, no.
And they were like little fluffy clouds. Nothing. No, it was a real phobia.
I remember finishing on that game, Hilzo. It was a stacked final. I reckon there were 17 of the 22 players in that game had played for Australia or went on to play for Australia. It was a nuts game of cricket. And Ian Botham was not out, I reckon, on Saturday. So Sunday morning, there was something like 16,000, 17,000 people at the WACA. And most of them were there because they knew that he was walking out to bat on the third day. It was a nuts game. Speaking of nuts, there's 2 stories I want out of you. I want the Mars bar on the pitch story, and I want Arjuna Ranatunga. Which one are we going with?
I think the Mars bar one's funny.
Go on.
Arjuna's wasn't. It was very serious, quite emotionally charged, and but with in South Africa, the Mars bar, it was an Andrew Cordis line that he used here in Brisbane club cricket for university.
Yep.
and this little fella came out to bat against us for Orange Free State in Bloemfontein, and he had the world's worst helmet on, like we'd never seen anything like it. This was in the early 90s. It wasn't like the early 60s.
Worse than Brayshaw's.
Worse than braces,
Right.
yeah. And you know how bad the Oliver helmets used to look in baseball, really?
Yeah.
Oliver was a brand, and this was worse than that too. Like, so Tim May started us off, this little fella, and his protective gear was all lumpy in his clothes, you know. And Tim May said, "Mate, you've been brought up on experimental food, haven't you?" And so we went, what are you talking about, Maisie? And we're all round the bat, and they're 7 down. Hansi Cronje's batting at the other end. He made a double 100. Yeah. And anyway, this fellow was going all right for 15 minutes maybe. And so I used the Andrew Cordes line. Warnie, why don't we just, if I put a Mars bar just short of a good length here, you bowl you wrong and Oompa Loompa has a chance of overbalancing, and I'll stump you, and we'll get through these last 3, and we'll get on to Joburg for the first test. And Oompa Loompa's out there patting down the pitch, and I'm back in position now, and he just turned around. I'll never forget it. It's through this dodgy helmet, and we'd called him all names under the sun for 15 minutes, and looked straight at me and he said, "I'd have to be quick to beat Fat Booney to it."
Yes.
And Booney's our short leg. He comes in like that. And we're all now shaking his hands. It was fantastic.
Oh, that's gold.
And his name was Cossie Venter. We found his name after that. And wonderful. He's a little left arm orthodoxer. So
Heels, I've got a couple
Really
of
good.
memories of that game.
Yeah.
Because, of course, that was the first tour, 94 tour post-apartheid, right? So we were welcomed in with just, abundance. But I remember Merv, he was running in the bowl, and he got through his action, and he sort of just collapsed sort of midway through the wicket. He goes, "Oh!" And we, of course, charge in and think, "Oh, bloody hell, he's gone area. Our campaign hasn't even started, and we're done without one of our premium quicks." So as we all gather around, he gives it a
Big Doris.
Big Doris.
What was that, a bird?
That's better. No, big fart. A big bottom bird.
No.
Yeah, Tubby, he made Tubby run down from slip. AB wasn't playing the game, and Tubby said, "No, he's mucking around," or we said he's gone, and I can't do anything about it. I'm not going down there. And Merv stayed down that long, didn't he? He stayed, mate.
Crouched.
Oh, and he's carrying on, and he held it in for that long until Tubby got down there. Either side of lunch, there's trouble with Merv Hughes.
He gets a bit gassy. Hey, Hills, I'd love to talk to you before we go about your Channel 9 days. I mean, there'd be so many stories, but what was it like transitioning out of the game into the Channel 9 commentary box? And those older, experienced guys, Richie Benno was there, Tony Greig, of course, Bill Laurie. Were they a bit protective of their turf, or did they welcome you in with open arms?
Look, it was a great privilege for a start, and we didn't. Whilst we felt no resistance, and their arms were open, we didn't get much of a run. We'd look at the roster at the start of the day, Tubby and I, and just one stint every session or something. So, geez, we travelled down here for this. And that lasted about 5 years. So the arms, there was some background work getting done. It was Greggy that, so one night, Tubby finally lost it with Greggy. We were in the Perth casino, and in the lobby bar type thing. And Greggy sort of said, "Well, of course, you guys are on trial, And Tubby said, "Oh, piss off, Greggy. Like, this has been 5 years we've been in this game, and you still saying we're on trial. You're a joke. We're coming for you." Like, it was good stuff. And so it was. Greggy was very protective of his roster. Bill was never threatened at the lead. He's the lead caller, and he's in his seat 3 hours before anyone else wanted to be there. And so he wasn't losing easily, and Richie was Richie, and Chappelli was the analyst. So they had everything covered. They were great men to work with, and they all refused to get lazy. they kept up to date with global trends and global happenings overnight. Greggy online and Richie constantly, researching. Bill wouldn't have that. Bill would just he just never got lazy with his call. He wouldn't even know who played for Pakistan. But the boys were great to work with and learn from. And of course, Kerry Packer was on top of them. He was still alive till 05. So it was great experience.
Could you imagine, boys? Could you imagine having one stint per session? What those two lunatics, Tubby Taylor and Ian Healy, were going to get up to for the rest of that time? That's way too many hours for these bloody people. JB, you must have witnessed something there.
Well, yes. I came in later, and I remember this sums the man we're interviewing up better than anything else, Bluey. They wrote an article in a paper in Sydney rating the Channel 9 commentary team. So Richie, 10 out of 10. Bill, 10 out of 10. Greggy, 9 out of 10. Heels and Tub, 8 out of 10. Slats, 8 out of 10. Brayshaw, 4. 4 out of 10. Anyway, so we turned, and they went through our commentary team, and it was when they were trying to nail us a bit. So we had a meeting the next day called, and the boss, sort of Steve Crawley, was standing there, and he said, "Look, I've got to address the article in the paper today." And there was a bit of a pregnant pause, and Heels in the corner gives the, "Can I just say I thought Brayshaw's number was a bit high?" And everyone just pissed themselves laughing.
Brilliant.
That's what I loved about moving into that group was you just copped it, and it was exactly as you should.
There's a little bit of copying and taking the mickey, but there's always a cricket debate going around as well, which is great. They seriously cared about the game.
Yeah. Now,
boys, I've got to hop off. Yeah.
But just give me one word on these two as teammates, Heelso, before they go. Start with Doss.
Right, Doss. I didn't get the best of him in Australian colours because he hadn't sort of created his dominance in my time, which was a real shame. Confidence boost when Haydos is in your team, you get confidence, and when that's with an opening batsman, it's a great feeling. That we can dominate from the top, even in the hardest of conditions. One of the real reasons why Queensland have made it to the top many times. So great to play with you, Haydos. Bluey. It was fun. We hung out together. There's a real social impact of Bluey. He just loved playing cricket and being around and achieving. And he certainly did that. I think we batted when you made your first 100, Blewett.
Yep.
Didn't we? Or
we did.
The Adelaide Oval?
Yeah, but we put on a big partnership, but then you got out of me the next morning, and then I had to, McIntyre came out. It was a frigging nightmare.
Mate, I hardly slept that night. I was going to put on such a big show for you the next day. And then geez, I'm out. 10 minutes later, I'm in the pavilion.
Hey,
it was just magnificent to hang out with you and play with you.
Boys, love yous.
What a pleasure this has been. Yep. Doss, go and get a plane. You go and do that. Heelso, thank you so much. You're busy. You're doing the SEN breakfast up there in Queensland. You got lunches. You're on the board up there. You've given us more than enough of your time, mate. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, Bray, one of the better things that I reckon we do up here is we've mobilised our former players very well, and that's the Bulls Masters. So I'm heavily involved. I chair that board.
Yep.
That's one that doesn't get mentioned, but it's such valuable, property to get all former players together. I don't think cricket takes its responsibility seriously enough about what it does for its former players, and Queensland have got a structure that works. It's separate to Queensland cricket a little bit, and no one else seems to be able to replicate us.
No.
We've had meetings with everyone to try to get everyone else doing it. Just doesn't happen. So that's one that always I'd love getting mentioned more and more. You blokes have helped us out at times too.
Well, Bluey and I have been commenting on the fact that finally, and it's taken way too long, South Australia are getting much better at their past playing group. But it's taken, you blokes have been at the forefront of that for 100 years, and the other states are dragging behind. There's no doubt about that. And the Bulls Masters, you play games as well, don't you? As well as
we play sort of 6 games a year against local rep teams. So it's a bit of a worry. We're always a little concerned about running into a young Mitchell Johnson.
Yeah.
But so now we have to, and then we're just working on the pathway from immediately retired and using actual state players because they're Bulls Masters members to go on those games and take a bit of ammo now that we're getting a bit old. Our fast bowlers, we used to take Joey Dawes, Luke Feldman and Casper and Vic. They used to have a little bit still left, but you just always got to be careful that you've got enough ammo in the tank in case you need it against decent players,
Well, the other thing, Heels, before I let you go, that I need to compliment you on is your mentorship of Australian wicketkeepers, which not many people know because you're very humble, so you don't mention it ever. But they all, in my time of watching you, they've all come to you. Brad Haddon, Alex Carey, Adam Gilchrist, and just spoken to you about their craft, and you're always very generous with your time and help.
Yeah, no, and it's my pleasure. Rod Marsh dragged me aside, took me out to the university fields in WA, and then one night, and then really roused on me once. He sort of, we'd won a one-dayer against the West Indies in Melbourne, and so now we're over in the Hilton Hotel, and, I'm having too many beers, and he's called me over, and I thought, Bacchus. I was calling him Bacchus. I shouldn't have been. It should have been Rod. And Bacchus, and he said, are you wasting my time? The smile went off my face a bit, and he says, "If you're going to do that, you little young so and so, I'm not gonna help you." And I said, "What do you mean?" He saw me warm up, and I didn't warm up properly at the start of that day, and so that was him to me. We all fall into the same bad habits as keepers, lazy habits or tired habits. And I'll have an eye for it, like he had an eye for it. And I'm sure Wally Grout was being mentored by plenty, and he was mentoring maybe Tabsy in Victoria, in New South Wales, and it would have happened forever. So that's nothing, and it needs to keep happening.
Just before we let you go, Hills, are we going to be all right this summer, do you think, against the Poms? What's your gut feel?
My gut feel is yes, we'll be all right. But I struggle to, when you don't lose to England, you struggle to feel as if you're going to lose until it happens, We've got less unknowns than they have. Their fast bowling outfit is so unknown. The four that are behind Jofra Archer and Mark Wood are unknown first up, and then the unknowns about Archer and Wood are really can't be good for a team's confidence. But they'll have a crack at us first up. I think Usman and Steve Smith and Travis Head are going to get bounced for hours. Right? Remember Travis against England in England last series. Just he has a go at it all the time. The field gets set and he can't put it away. So he's going to cop it because of that. Steve Smith, it seems to be effective against him and slows his scoring down. But can he get through it, and can he really make them bend their back? It's not easy. Bowls short for long periods of time. Bend your back and one of them might break. And I think Usman will be copying a fair bit of short stuff, and then that little nip away from round the wicket. Jofra Archer has got a good skill level at bowling to left-handers, a bit like Stuart Broad, but we just don't know what he's going to bring. He hasn't played for so long.
Dust off the 389. I wouldn't mind a St. Henri, a little basket press. Just open that fridge up, Hills, for when we get to Brisbane.
Righto. Well, if you don't want any good ones, I won't have them either. We'll just have those.
Great to see you, mate. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Bray and Bluey.
What a legend. Ian Healy, superstar. We are going to head off now. But by the way, make sure YouTube, you subscribe to the channel, and of course, Instagram. We want you following that as well. And listen, wherever you get your podcasts, it's all over barbecue.